Metaverse and the future of education, enhancing or replacing traditional learning.
Lot of good knowledge. Knowledge is power. So what we're going to talk about right now is Metaverse and the whole, how it could potentially pivot the education system. So it's a really, really interesting conversation. I'm going to pass it quickly to my fellow panelists. Just because we are a little bit tight on time, I'm going to get them to introduce themselves really quick, and then we'll get started with the fun questions. So I'll pass it to you. We'll go around this way. Do you have a microphone?
I do not know.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor, and I've been in the virtual reality space for about 10 years now. And about 3.5 years ago, I started working on an education project. And the idea is to build a platform that's a two-sided marketplace with creator tools so that people can build interactive experiences, put them into the metaverse, and people from anywhere can meet in the space and go on these learning journeys together.
Very cool. I like that. That's really interesting. It's not working?
Yeah. Hi, so my name is Amna. I'm working with 𝐒𝐿𝐴, which is a UNICEF and ITU initiative to connect every school in the world to the internet by 2030. And I'm also a lecturer. I have teaching experience in London and Dubai. I've been in the blockchain space for quite some time. I'm a founder as well and a board member, and I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you here. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felix. I'm in the space for a pretty long time. I'm the co-founder of Dash Next. Dash was the first Bitcoin fork, the first DAO in the world from 2014. We brought that to Asia, built payment systems, helped people understanding crypto. Now building a metaverse, a social commerce metaverse. We have a focus to, kind of be the future of commerce. We have built a metaverse with a super simple approach where everybody can spin up a shop in 15 minutes. You can choose a template, upload your inventory, start selling stuff in the metaverse. I really believe it's going to be changing the future of work and obviously future of education.
Very exciting. Who's excited for the future of education? Yeah, come on, education, come on, yeah, there we go. Let's go, people. We have a lot to learn from these amazing panelists. It's something so interesting about, the way that the metaverse could potentially shift education is, the education system has actually not changed for like many, many years. It's the one system that actually is pretty behind. Like cars have advanced and like everything that, our phones and all of this stuff, but the education system, it's very slow to advance. So what's really exciting to me is this panel about, Web3, metaverse, and education. So let's get into it. I was mentioning before that the metaverse is kind of sometimes used now as a buzzword, right? And in this case, there's definitely a lot of ways that we can, forward education using the metaverse. So I want to talk about on how it can shift education. So we'll go this way, and want to hear from you guys. So, or whoever wants to answer first.
Yeah, well, I mean, things are evolving. I think one thing I learned from building a metaverse is that you have to deal with the new generation, and that it's kind of normal if you're like 15 and younger that you kind of grow up in an internet where you talk to people. My mom always told me don't talk to strangers in the internet, but that's just not true anymore. I think now if you grow up and you don't have a voice first experience in the internet, you're kind of a weird guy. So that's changing, and that changing interaction kind of means everything for how you socialize, how you deal with friends, how you make connections, and obviously how you try out new stuff together and learn together. But as you say, this did not enter the school system yet or the normal education system. So there's obviously a gap between kind of how fast you learn outside of school and outside of the system versus, inside your circles, inside your friends. At the same time, something like entrepreneurship and all these things suddenly became popular. So it's not nerdy anymore to build a business. It's actually something cool, and I think that's, for me, a very positive thing, to see changing. So I see, when I look around, especially at these conferences, and a lot of young people that are just driven by building something because they're passionate about it, right? And passion, I guess, is the best driving factor to do anything.
Definitely. How do you guys think, like, do you guys think that the metaverse in education will shift or will it replace the current education system? Do you think like it'll add, or how do you think it'll kind of go?
So I think that the traditional education system will not be 100% replaced. There are many advantages of the metaverse as well. You know, it's so immersive. Given the COVID crisis, I know a lot of students had to take online classes and it was very difficult for them. So with the metaverse, you can take geography classes and you can go see the pyramids of Egypt. You can take history classes, go see the dinosaurs. So it's 4 times more immersive. And this was actually a study done by PwC last year, which said if you compare VR in particular with traditional education systems, the retention by learners was 4 times more, and even the engagement was 4 times more. So coming back to will it replace or not, I believe that while there are many benefits of the metaverse, it is equally important that there is an approach to outside events like clubs, school clubs, meetups in local areas as well. So I believe they have the potential to go side by side. And of course, there are a lot of places where it can benefit, but mostly it should go side by side together.
That's really amazing. Good also like statistics on kind of how it's already, you know, enhancing education and like the engagement, because I think right now we're losing people, you know, like we're losing people's engagement, especially children. So that's very interesting. Has anybody ever tried the National Geographic in VR where you like go and take photos? Should try it. It's very, very cool. No, that's really exciting. As well as, you know, seeing things like, you know, if you have education in the metaverse or virtual reality, you can see like dinosaurs and animals, and, you know, instead of having zoos and whatnot, I think that would be really interesting as well. Would you like to answer the question as well?
Sure. I mean, I agree with all points. The engagement piece for education, like if your focus isn't on the content, if you're thinking about something else, if you're on your phone, you're not going to learn, because attention and focus is the #1 thing that actually enables you to retain information. So when you look at these statistics, people that play games are just so much more engaged in these 3D interactive worlds than they are sitting passively. So just by the nature of being engaged with the content, you're going to retain more information. And I think to the point of will it replace, right now, another statistic is that of the $7 trillion education industry, only 5% is spent on digital. So there's $6.65 trillion being spent on traditional brick and mortar education. So it's just, over time, I think we'll very clearly see a trend toward more digital. And so I think it will, of course, supplement to in-person, but there's so much blue ocean to just shift so much of this into digital.
Very interesting and exciting to hear. My next question is, can Metaverse improve access to education for underdeserved communities, and what ethical implications should be considered? So it's maybe a big question, but I think
well,
could
yes.
open up a good discussion. Yeah, no, let's get into it.
Yes, it can. I mean, obviously you need good machines, right? I think one struggle of the metaverse right now is that you have all these different gaming engines, and we had a long discussion about that yesterday, because right now if you're building a metaverse, you will face the situation that you have to make a trade-off, which means like on kind of how cool do you want the metaverse to look, and how easy do you want people to access it. That means if you just open, like, let's say, an old Android phone, and you open the browser in a metaverse, you require to build a metaverse in a very low graphical details, versus like everybody talking Unreal Engine, it looks like real, and we want to be the Ready Player Me metaverse, blah, blah, blah. But that means you need a gaming machine. You need to download gigabytes of data, blah, 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 right? So to your question, obviously, if you want everybody to enter the metaverse and like take away the friction for, you know, even with any cheap device or any cheap smartphone to enter the metaverse, you have to build it in a way that it doesn't look that amazing. But, to be fair, I mean, if you look at all these games like Minecraft, they don't look amazing, but still people are super engaged and people are playing it. So, I guess there's a bit of a trade-off to make how you build it, how you deal with low tech and make it look cool and fun and engaging anyway. And I think that's kind of the challenge for the people who are building metaverses.
I like to take the topic of ethics, the second part of your question. So the first thing that comes into mind is accessibility. And for accessibility, you need to take a step back and look at connectivity, which is what Giga is all about. There are 2.7 billion people on the planet who still do not have access to the internet, and 1.3 billion of them are children. So the digital divide is very real. So before we do all this massive leaps in emerging technologies, which are very much happening, we need to bridge the digital divide as well, which is why Giga is working on this with such enthusiasm. Now, another topic that comes into mind with ethics is, of course, again, accessibility, but of the hardware and the software that is needed. Yes, there are metaverses which are available without the need of headsets, but for the truly virtual immersive experience, we have to look at accessibility of hardware as well. Another topic when it comes to ethics is privacy. So when education especially in mind, a lot of children would be using these devices, these metaverses. How is the data being collected? How is it being used? So these privacy concerns need to be set at the forefront. And the good news is there is a lot of initiative that is being done. Last year at Davos World Economic Forum set up a Metaverse committee specifically focusing on this issue. And they've partnered with regards to education with Super Awesome to make sure that the metaverse is safe specifically for children. And there are a lot of other initiatives coming up. Even with regards to interoperability, we have the Open Metaverse Forum that is working into that. So there are many ethics issues, but there is also progress being made in addressing them.
Yeah, I would add to that, I think, really good points about the different hardware as well. So the most immersive experience, when you look at the data and you look at the engagement studies, when you're in an immersive headset, if you don't get motion sick, which I'm a hardcore VR user, I've sort of passed that point, but a lot of people do get very motion sick. And so if you can get through that, and you can actually feel present in the space, that's when you retain the most information, that's when you feel the most present. But the hardware is an enormous, enormous limitation that I've struggled with for so long, trying to get people to just buy headsets. Even buy 100 headsets can be a big struggle. So I think when we look at how people will come into these immersive spaces, the vast, vast majority will be on mobile devices. Like you look at Roblox as a comparable, which arguably is a foundational tech stack that you could compare to metaverse infrastructure. It's people social in a 3D space, running around, connected with each other. 79% was the most recent stat I saw, is all mobile-based. So I think when you think about accessibility and the disparity between groups, people will probably still have access, especially over time. They'll have access to these worlds, but the people that have more resources will have much better experiences. They'll be embodied in their avatar. They'll have more agency in the space. So there still will be that divide, which is like a huge problem, way bigger than the metaverse.
I hope that in the future, doing education in the metaverse will actually help level out the playing field, in regards to education. Like, some jurisdictions have, are teaching this and teaching this. There's public schools and private schools. It would be really interesting to see if, people could get like the same education in a way. I think that could be really interesting. So to close off, what are some skills that students right now, let's say not thinking about kids, but students in university or people that are looking to get jobs, what are some skills that you recommend them learning so that they can get jobs to work, in the Web3 space and in the metaverse?
Well, I mean, if you like what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think that's a very true lesson for life. Everybody kind of learns or not, or kind of suffers in the job. And I think, that starts in an early age. I think you just mentioned it, right? How kids are like sucked in game environments, and why is that? You know, I mean, I was like 6 years old when my mom could leave me like 15 hours sitting at the computer, and I was really depressed when she kind of, you know, switched the machine off. But, you know, that was me really engaging in something. So, and that goes for learning as well. I think it's a challenge for a teacher or a school to kind of reach that level that kind of a computer game gives you. And if you reach that, you know, I believe you're actually good. You know, this is one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention also to your previous question, you know, everybody in crypto and metaverse is now talking about we have to educate everybody to do stuff, you know. This is one side. I actually come to the realization like the people who are building these programs, building these things should build in a way that you don't even have to teach anybody how to use it, right? I mean, you know, in crypto, everybody's talking about private keys and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is it's actually so much friction that nobody wants to get in who is, you know,
Hopefully
not
the
really
user
motivated.
experience will become,
Exactly.
you know, much more smooth. Yeah.
Exactly. So and I think that goes for the metaverse, that goes for crypto, that goes for kind of all the in-between between Web3 and metaverse and education.
I think digital skills, which is pretty obvious, but it is so important. And again, the concept of bridging the digital divide, for us, it is very obvious, and we take for granted digital connection, digital skills. But for 2.7 billion people on the planet, it is a dream. It is still not a reality. So digital skills, communication skills are very important. They will carry on in the metaverse, especially with regards to collaborating efforts and also communicating with different people from all around the world. So being open-minded and about connection, that would come into mind. Yeah, so these are, I think, some of the top. Also, gamification skills, I think, would help. And this is, you know, because as Metaverse gets more gamified and more flexibility would be required. For example, World Economic Forum said that 55 million users regularly come daily to Roblox and 25 million to Fortnite every day. So you have this advantage of reaching these masses, and from there you can upskill them as well. So there's a lot of ways that, you know, you can upskill them in the metaverse.
So in terms of if you want to get into the metaverse industry and start contributing, I would think foundationally problem-solving skills are probably the most important thing, like critical thinking and problem solving. But then very practically, there are 3 broad tracks that I would see: technical, creative, and business. And there's a lot of overlap between them, but you could either pursue the technical side, which is learning how to program, right, foundationally. Then there's the creative side, which is maybe 3D modeling, level design, artistic design. And then the business side, which is operations, HR, finance. So you can always kind of blend between them, and I think a lot of the best people do blend between them, but if you're really passionate about one of those things, there's 100% a place for you in the industry.
Amazing. Give it up for our great panelists, everybody. I think that was great advice and really important if you want to get working in the industry. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Everybody.
Give yourself a round of applause for getting educated and more knowledgeable. Thanks, everybody.